What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about, do modifications actually make the value of your car go up, or do they make it go down? This is a question I get over and over again. So I've been buying cars for over 20 years, and there are a lot of misconceptions on what the actual value is when it comes to putting aftermarket parts on your vehicle. So when I'm building a car for myself, or if I'm going to sell it, I try to make my options as broad as I possibly can to hit as many people as a broad appeal. Now this is very important. It's like if you were selling a house. You want to have it bright colors, you want to paint the interior white so it appeals to more people. Now you could paint your house purple with blue interior, but now the buyer pool gets a lot smaller. Now there's a saying in the car business, there's an ass for every seat, which is true. There's always somebody out there that likes the exact same thing that you're doing to your car. But like I said, that buyer's pool is much, much smaller than the rest of the general population. And this is especially true with a lot of the modifications that people are doing to their vehicles. Now the first one we're going to be talking about are wheels. Now wheels are something that are very simplistic that really change the character of a car. Now a lot of people think, oh, if I put wheels on my car, it's going to make it worth more or make it worth less. There's kind of two ways about it. Now if they're good looking, they don't basically jeopardize the ride, the safety, or the drivability of the car. Usually I say that it's a little bit better. Maybe your handling improves a little bit better, the ride, the look, overall, it's an actual improvement. Those type of features when it comes to wheels, I will give extra money for, just a little bit, but not a lot. Now, if you buy these big ugly wheels and you're riding on these really thin low profile tires and the ride is absolute garbage, then probably not so much. People are not going to pay extra money. So if you paid $10,000 for these 26-inch wheels that you put on your Chevy Impala, unfortunately, nobody's going to pay that extra money to cover that loss. The next one is the stance community. Now, I try not to make fun of anybody that loves cars because I think everybody has their own taste and there's basically something out there for everybody, but I believe it's absolutely retarded. You're literally putting your car in a compromised position. You have no traction pad. Basically, your tires are lean all the way to the side. You have this much wheel touching the actual pavement, so you could spin out, your braking is gone, your traction control is gone, and your actual control of the vehicle when you're steering. You lose all of that when your car is completely stanced out. But some people like it. So if you bring a car into me with something like that, more than likely, I'm gonna say no because you probably Mickey Moused it, you messed up your suspension, and more than likely, you probably didn't take care of your whole car. So if you're thinking about doing this, keep in mind that if you're gonna do that, keep all your factory parts so you can bring it back to OEM spec so you can have more buyers in that pool. Now here's another one that actually brings more value to a car is when you do with trucks or SUVs with oversized tires. If you put oversized tires on a lift on any of those things, you always get more money. That's just one of the things. I don't care what make and model, if it's an old truck, a beat up truck, you will always get your money back when it comes to putting a lift and wheels on your car. Now that's just a basic lift and cool wheels. We're not saying like these crazy ones that are out there with like chrome and gold plated lift kits that never go off-roading or anything else like that. It has to be within reason. So most times when I'm bidding on a car, I will pay extra for those type of vehicles because they sell very quickly once they hit the sales lot. And when I take them to the auction, dealers usually fight over them because they want something that's eye-catching at their dealership. I used to love buying Jeep Wranglers and throwing these lift kits on them and selling them all day long. It's funny, if you go on like Facebook Marketplace or any of these other things, you'll see some of these older Jeep Wranglers that are like $10,000, but they got $10,000 worth of stuff on it, lift kit, winches, all this crazy lights, and they still bring $15,000 to $20,000, which is crazy. They hold their value very, very well. So those are some of the modifications that tend to bring you more money. Now, another one that's a very big misconception are light bars and light accessories. This goes with all different types of cars. First, we'll start on trucks and work our way down. Now, trucks and SUVs have these crazy light bars out front, you know, and some of the headlights and these glowing fog lights and stuff like that that really tend to set the look for the vehicle. But unfortunately, as a dealer and as a buyer, I don't pay extra for those things because a lot of this stuff is cheap Chinese stuff, which I hate to say it. That's what a lot of people do. They buy it off of Amazon or eBay. There are a few selective brands out there that are very high quality. Another thing, it just depends if it's made tastefully. If it looks good, we might pay a little bit more money, but most times people have the cheap Chinese brackets with the cheap Chinese lights and the switches they drilled in their dashboard. So my advice, don't put on a lot of lights, and if you do, make it where you can hide the holes for the accessories underneath the bumper. If you're putting it on your roof rack, make sure you buy caps to cover those holes when you take those things out when you return it back to stock. Sticking on the theme of lights, these HID kits for like these cheap economy cars. So if you're driving a Honda Civic and you buy an HID kit and you spent $600 on it and you think that you're cool because now your Honda Civic's got HID lights, Nobody's going to give you the money for that. We actually will take that away because more than likely it's going to heat up too much and it's going to melt the plastic in your headlight. I've seen it a bunch of times. Another one is underglow. Now, underglow is a very cool accessory if you're building a show car or something like that, but we will not give you more money if your car is glowing from underneath. It's pretty much just a wash. I'd recommend taking it off and putting it on your next car. So let's go ahead and go over to motors and transmissions. Now, everybody always wants a souped up hot rod or souped up sports car or a truck with maybe more horsepower. This is always something we're striving for, more. But there are a lot of modifications that are very bad for cars, and even if you think it's worth a lot of money, it's probably not. So when I see people putting like superchargers on trucks, if it's not factory made with that, more than likely I will not pay you extra money for it. Because now if you buy, let's say, a regular Chevy Tahoe, which is an LS motor, which is pretty bulletproof, if you threw a supercharger on top of it, I probably won't pay you the extra money because I know the reliability of the car goes out the window completely. I used to buy a lot of these supercharged Hummers back in the day when they were really popular, the H2s and the H3s, but the downfall was they kept having problems overheating, and even though they had 10, 20, 30,000 miles, that was it. Since they're aftermarket, they weren't reliable, so we weren't getting that money back. When I sold my R8, I had a lot of people contact me trying to trade me other cars. And I remember this one guy had a 2017 R8 here in Vegas that was twin turboed. Called me up and says, hey, I'll trade you, but you got to put $20,000 on top. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, why am I going to trade you a car that's 2021, that's a newer R8 for an older one with that's like has more miles? And he said, oh, but it's got a twin turbo kit. It's got 800 horsepower. And I told him, okay, who put the turbo kit on? Oh, it was my buddy's shop here in Vegas. No. If you put an aftermarket turbo kit, especially on an exotic car, unless it's made by a reputable company that everybody knows and they trust, and you have documentation, videos, and everything else to put back with it, stay the hell away. And to be honest with you, most dealers and auto brokers and everyone else you talk to will not buy that car. If we do buy it, we're actually going to pay you less than what the factory cost is because it's not worth this for us to take that gamble. Even though you spent $70,000 on a twin turbo kit, thinking it was all that in a bag of chips, it's really not. People don't want these things because if you did it wrong, you didn't do the computer right, you could have a lot of issues. And you could see tons of these things all over Copart. These guys build these turbo kits, drive these cars, they blow them up, and then they crash them into the wall so they can get the insurance to pay out because they don't want to spend $30,000, $40,000 for a new V10 motor. So don't believe in the hype that the fact that you can put a turbo kit on your car somehow makes it worth more money. So I think a lot of the turbo kits for exotic cars is definitely to stay away. Now there are a few makes and models that actually bring more money when you put turbos on it, which is pretty crazy. One, which is a really good example, is any type of Toyota Supra, Nissan GTR. These have cult-like followings. People absolutely love these things. And I personally bought in a few back in the day where we put upgraded turbos, put a bigger turbo. We had one that was naturally aspirated that we turned into turbo. And just because we did that, I think the kit cost us maybe $8,000, and we got an extra $15,000 when we took it to the sale. So there are some makes and models that do that. But we did our due diligence. We made sure that it was a popular, reliable turbo. It was a quality kit, and when we put it together, we took videos, we took pictures, and we let the new owners know exactly how everything worked and how it had really low miles. So now they could rest assured with their build, and we got the best money for the vehicle. Staying on the trend of motors and transmissions, let's talk about tuning. Now, tuning is extremely popular. Now, there's tunes if you want to get maybe better gas mileage, if you have a truck, you want to tow more and you need more torque, or if you're driving a sports car and you want more horsepower or higher revving. All these things are available, but unfortunately there are a lot of bad tunes out there because there's so many people that are making their own tunes to charge people money. They don't really do the research to see what the long-term effects are. So always remember this, it's a balancing game. If you're adding horsepower, you're taking away from something else. Is it reliability? Is it torque? Who knows? But it's always a balancing act. Keep that in mind when you're doing your tune because you're always robbing power from somewhere else. On top of that, I always tell people reliability to me is more important than anything. I make a joke about, I don't know if you saw my Turbo Smart car, I built it probably about 6 to 8 months ago. That thing works flawlessly. It has no problems. I built it correctly and I could drive it every single day, which I pretty much do, and I have no problems with it. The reason is because reliability was number one to me. Now, can I add an extra maybe 10 pounds of boost and get another 20 horsepower out of the car? Probably, but is it worth it for me to jeopardize that reliability? I don't think so. Quit chasing numbers. Think about having it fun, enjoy it, make it reliable, do your own thing. Quit chasing the rabbit of I gotta have crazy horsepower, crazy this. Now let's talk about some of the things that I believe that will bring money back to your car. A really good thing is obviously PPF. A lot of people now are starting to see this and they're paying a little bit more for PPF, film protection on your car. Because now with all the rock chips and everything else, people like to have that added protection to their car. Another one is braking systems. If you're upgrading the braking system, anything that basically improves the reliability, the safety, the handling, and pretty much everything else of the vehicle, those things usually tend to bring you a little bit more money. Not top dollar, but it's easier to offset those costs. If you put Brembo brakes on your car, maybe put carbon ceramic on your car, something else, any type of brake upgrades, I think generally you can get some money back. Here's another one that's pretty hilarious, Lamborghini doors. Do not do it. I can't tell you how many times I went to go bid on a car, I looked at it, all the numbers were right, and as soon as I lifted up the doors, I just walked away. This is gonna sound bad, but if you're trying to sell your car and it has Lambo doors, most people that are looking at that car are gonna think, one, you're an idiot, two, you don't know how to take care of your car, and it's probably been neglected this whole time. Even though it could be the complete opposite, you may baby your car, but I was gonna buy a Plymouth Prowler not too long ago, and when I went to go look at it, the guy put Lamborghini doors on it, and it absolutely killed it. I told him that I wouldn't touch it, even if he brought it back to stock, because I just didn't wanna have something like that messed around with. So please stay away from those things. Now here's a spicy take. Aftermarket radio systems. They are absolute trash. I don't care what you say. You could say I spent $10,000. I have the most amazing speakers set up, my 37 TVs and my headrest behind me, underneath my car, my spare tire. Nobody will pay you extra money for that. Unless you find someone that actually enjoys that same thing, we are not gonna pay you. I remember this guy had this crazy Scion that was like in SEMA back in like 2013, and he brought it to our dealership and he was trying to get $8 grand for it. And he showed us a build sheet of $50,000 in audio equipment. And I told him that I wouldn't even give him that. He'd be better off selling it on Craigslist or Facebook, because I would literally have to rip everything out of it just to sell it again. And I didn't want the liability of this thing basically rattling out and catching on fire because all the amps exploded. But when it comes to audio equipment, please be careful and don't believe the hype. I've seen people drop $6,000 to $7,000 on component systems that they think are much better quality. Oh, it's ran with fiber optics, the sound is way better. 9 times out of 10, your factory stereo system is really good. Now, if you're driving an older car and you want to do a few upgrades, I totally understand. If your car doesn't have Bluetooth, like I said, I understand with that. But you will never get that money back, especially if you try to trade it in at a dealership or if you take it to an auction. They will not pay you the extra money when it comes to audio systems. Now let's go ahead and move on to suspension. Now, remember what I said. Anything that I think that improves the handling, the functioning of your vehicle usually tends to bring you more money. So if you have coilovers, perfect example, every time I bought a Miata, I always put coilovers on it because I know I will get that money back, because people want to hop in these little Miatas and drive like a crazy person and they handle great. Now, if you slam your car and you put these crazy aftermarket suspensions on it, unfortunately, you will not get your money back. It doesn't improve the handling, it's more cosmetic looks, and people don't like to scrape on speed bumps. I've noticed that quite a bit. Now, when it comes to airbags and air shocks, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, because when it comes to like exotic cars, everybody wants air shocks because you can lift a car up to go over speed bumps. But when it comes to like airbags, if you have like a lowrider or a VIP car, or if you just want your car bagged and slammed to the floor, a lot of times it's more of a headache because it's just more parts to break. And then on top of that, if you get the cheap bags, which most people do, as you're driving, you're basically bouncing as the car or as the bags are inflated. So it really tends to turn people off when it comes to buying those things. So my advice is, if you're doing coilovers, get some decent ones, but most times you will get your money back out of it. Airbags, not so much. So before I end this video, I do want to give you guys one tip. Something that will definitely double the resale value of your car is taking care of it. Something so funny and so simplistic, 90% of the population does not do. You can have an 80,000 mile Corvette and it could be beat to hell, curb marks all over your wheels, dirty inside, no service records. And I would rather take a exact same year with maybe 125,000 miles, I'll give that guy more if it's clean and he shows me some sort of service records. Because we always have this misbelief that if my car has low mileage and it's desirable, it's worth more. Where we tend to look for cars that actually been taken care of, that are in much better shape, just like everyone else. Nobody wants to go shopping for a car, open up the door and there's McDonald's bags, it smells like ass inside there, it just looks disgusting. Nobody wants to buy your car. Wash your car, take care of it. You go to an oil change, even if it's a $25 oil change at some cheap place, take the receipts, put it in a folder. I'm telling you, when you go to sell your car and you pull out a folder and you hand it to them and you're like, hey man, look at all these receipts of all the stuff I did to the car. It's a lot. And it usually impresses people. They're like, okay, this guy took care of this car, whatever else. Even if you bought a bunch of Amazon accessories and you put the receipts in there, it still looks good, and it gives that picture that you actually take care of your car and you know it. If anybody's watching this and has ever bought a car from one of these guys and they get that folder full of receipts, it lets them know, okay, this guy spent a lot of money, it's a good deal, it's definitely a great car. Plus, you can always go back on the receipts because some of this work may have warranties on it. So if the fuel pump is brand new and he hasn't driven it and now it goes out again and it has a 3-year warranty, you can go back to the shop, they can replace it for free, and then you're good to go. But like I said, keep track of these receipts. Wash and detail your car. If you're not cleaning your car, you don't have to shampoo it or anything, but if you clean it out every 2 weeks, that's all you have to do. Wash it at least every 2 weeks. I always recommend that. It costs a few bucks or just a few minutes of your time, but it goes a long way because your car will not get stains, the paint won't get scratched, the interior won't get stains, it won't smell like ass, and all these things will add up to resale value of your car. But anyways, I'd love to know your opinions in the comment section below. What do you think of some of the aftermarket accessories we covered? What do you think will actually make your car go up in value? And list me some of the things that you think that will bring your car down. Also, if you disagreed with me with anything, that's okay. We can still be friends, but let me know your opinions in the comment section below. Once again, follow us on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next video.